Everyone's talking about it, no one's saying it. So let's say it and talk about it. All right. Here we go. Who here's moved apartments, created a storage unit where you just took all that crap you didn't know what to deal with and you shoved it in a storage unit? Well, guess what? Your data operates the same way. You have all this data that you've been collecting for years, or whether you're a business, whether you're an individual, and you stick it somewhere cheap. That's what a storage unit does. And with the invention of public cloud, data storage became extremely inexpensive. And for the last 15 years, public cloud has just said, we'll take your data. We'll store it here, no problem, super cheap. And then what's happened is that everyone's begun storing so much data that the bill is really getting ramped up. But when you look at anything that you store, you're really talking about three things. You have things that have utility. That's your couch that you didn't want to quite let go of. That has utility. You put it into a new apartment, you can sit down on it, it's comfortable, utility. You have things that have sentimental value. We all have those old photo albums. These things are things that are important to you, but not necessarily important to anyone else. This could be intellectual property. This could be internal data from your business. It could be lots of things, but it's really only valuable to the eye of the beholder. And then finally, we have things that we have monetary value. These are the things in your storage unit that you can put on eBay, get some cash back for. And this was really, data in storage from your own stuff is really similar in that regards. Now let's get to the real question. The internet is broken. There's a reason why Web3 exists. It's because everyone in Web3 knows the internet is broken. And really what Web2 is doing is they're selling access to your data. Everyone intimately is aware of this by how the social media companies monetize their data. And look, we see it all the time. And this affects the individual, and businesses know not to play in this space. That's why all their data is behind a firewall. Did you know that $135 billion on 1 year from 2 billion users? Now, we all know that 2 billion users is not where they make the money from. It's really about 20% of the 2 billion users. So that's 400 million users are driving most of the revenue that social media makes. Of that, there's another 20%, which is your super users. That's who's really, social media is really profiting from. And everyone knows in their heart that they are not getting properly compensated for how they mine their behaviors and then sell them to advertisers. And again, businesses don't fall into this trap, which is why they keep all their data behind firewalls. But really, we're talking about this era of data monetization that's coming into play. Data monetization is where now I feel safe and secure that I'm getting properly compensated for my data when it's being used by a third party. Individuals are subjected to this the most. Businesses don't share their data at all because they're afraid that they're going to get ripped off. Now, this is where the data economy starts to emerge. At a high level, there's 4 technologies out there, from AI, blockchain, chips, and data, all becoming confluing, connecting, and converging at this particular moment in time. And it's the convergence of these 4 technologies that are going to make the data economy possible. And if you look at how the data economy is going to work, it really looks like a pyramid to me. On the foundation layer, you're going to have data security, data storage, where you're going to need authentication, which means if I'm researching or downloading a data set from MIT, I need to know that it came from MIT, or else I need to know that it's immutable. I need to know that it hasn't been altered in any state. And then I need to know that it's verifiable, meaning I have continuous proofs from a quality assurance standpoint that the data I am looking to pay for is in its original state. From there, you go up the stack. You're going to need IP protections. This is what you see with Google, OpenAI, and New York Times. No matter how that case gets resolved, what you're already seeing is that other companies such as the New York Times are protecting their data, firewall, getting it off the internet so AI platforms don't scrape their data and steal that intellectual property. Finally, you're going to need some data marketplaces, places where you have high degrees of trust and transparency on the data, where it's come from, is it valuable, verifiable, do I know how it's on chain, and can I access it through the encrypted methods of choice? So the data owner itself has that level of protection. And if you can get those things and into a marketplace, now you're providing comfort for more and more people to come in, share their data, and to see what it's really worth. And then at the top of the pyramid, we have the LLM itself. We are already seeing that these LLMs are seeking quality data around very specific use cases. The days of OpenAI scraping the entire internet and grabbing everything that's out there, those days are over. We see the APIs from all these organizations are shutting down. They're closing off. They're like, nope, not falling for this trick again. Everyone wants to know that if their data is going to be used for an LLM, that they're getting compensated. So we're already seeing these changes of behavior within the marketplace, all supporting what's going to be the largest data economy ever seen. And you look at DePIN. DePIN at its core is just a combination of amalgamation of storage, compute, AI, and access, wrapped around some access controls. So Filecoin, as the leading decentralized storage provider, is making inroads with all these decentralized AI plays. They know at the core of what they're doing that decentralized storage and decentralized AI go hand in hand. Filecoin is also making inroads with the decentralized compute plays. Why? Because if you're going to process data or train an LLM, the compute and the data need to live as close to each other as possible. Filecoin is doing really well with a lot of the decentralized compute providers. And then ultimately what's left is access controls. How do you, whether this is homomorphic encryption or just different types of protections or DIDs or wallet technologies advancing, indexed metadata, people want to know that they can share data comfortably, know who has access to it, control that access, and make sure that data isn't able to be copied or stolen. So DePIN is at the core and at the foundation of all these principles that are going to make the data economy possible. That's why I think everyone shows up to DePIN events. That's why everyone I've talked to today is getting excited. They're looking to capitalize on how everyone is going to sell this data to the new buyer in town, the LLMs. And then we look at businesses. I always have this debate with people. Who's going to adopt the data economy first? Is it going to be individuals who are getting ripped off by Facebook, Google, Twitter, et cetera, or is it going to be businesses? My bet's on business. I come from an enterprise background, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but right now we know roughly 80% of all the data in the world is behind a firewall. That means it's business-related data. Now, when you think of like a business, once they have security and comfort and a means to say that, hey, maybe I just take 10% of my data and see what kind of market is out there for that. If they get positive feedback on that transaction, 10% of their data becomes a lot of data. And that's where people begin to FOMO in from that standpoint. Once you turn a cost center into a revenue center, that's when real change happens. Now you're at a competitive disadvantage if you're not monetizing your data to the degree your competitors are. The easiest way I think about this is I think about like pharmaceuticals, biotech, where all that data is behind a firewall. Now you begin to open that up, and that's where real change occurs. Cost center to revenue center, that is hockey stick, banana zone adoption that Filecoin is excited about and we think is within the 3 to 5 year time period. Why decentralization? It's programmable, single source of truth, no single point of failure. It's simple, it's understandable, and it's at the root of what Filecoin is and so many of the other DePIN projects here in the room today. So if you're excited about the data economy and you see what Filecoin sees, where we want to be the foundational storage archival layer for this data that's going to be monetized as part of the data economy, and hopefully that 170 billion is way too much of a conservative estimate, and data itself will emerge as the top 3, 2, maybe even 1 digital asset class on the entire planet. With that, thank you for your time. Find us at the Filecoin Foundation Network base all week. Yay, DePIN.